Hey Bob, how are you? Good, good. First, welcome our new agent somewhere over here on the floor. Yeah, congratulations. What's the name again? So today, as always, we'll start with some of the office company news. Don't got a lot of that. Hear from our affiliates, price reductions and days on the market. Going to go over some of that. And then Linda Miller was nice enough to show me her appraisal packet that she leaves with the appraiser. I'm going to show that off. Have her talk about it, and then we're going to have Bob Owen, Appraisals, speak. Ask him all the questions about appraisals you can, and then some of the new changes we have coming up as well. Right? Awesome. All right. So if I put this out in the email that went out, but if you're looking for someone to show a property for you, I put this on the office calendar with all the links on there. There's a little tab right next to the calendar saying show an agent. So if you need someone in a pinch, you can't make it. Here's all the people who signed up to help show houses, and then you can sign up there as well if you want to sign up and be a showing agent. You guys figure out money per house and all that stuff. That's between you guys, but there's about 20 people on here that are open to showing houses to help you out if you're in a pinch. I'm going to be sending a survey out here soon to everybody. Just kind of want to hear like any new speakers that you guys want in here, things you want to see in sales meetings, kind of events we want to do, trainings you want to do, like any changes in the office. Just kind of want to hear from you guys, what you want to see happening and kind of the trainings you want to see as well. So look out for that. And please, if you can, when you see it, go ahead and complete it. I'm not going to make it super long. Home platform, we're about a week away in September where you guys are all going to be activated. There's the home platform workshops. I've been sending them out. You can jump on there. I also put that on the office calendar as well, all those workshops. So you can find all those live workshops. You have to go to this platform to find the on-demand workshops and watch those. But starting September 8th, you'll see I have on my schedule, they blocked it all off. It's going to start right after Labor Day. John Perry will be doing 30 minutes every single morning at 9 o'clock. I think this is going to run 3 or 4 weeks. Then he's going to go to 1 o'clock, 3 or 4 weeks. Then he's going to go to 5 o'clock for 3 to 4 weeks. And just going through each different piece. 3 weeks at 9 o'clock and that's it? Or the 3, 3, and 3? Oh, so we're not doing the noon. Okay. We'll find out more about that. But anyways, for the first 3 weeks, 9 o'clock, John will be going over all those different things. Okay. And then our affiliates, as always. First, Roger coming in looking slim. Come on over.
And some unintended consequences of some summer fitness and protocol. I was a skinny kid. I don't like losing weight. When he says I'm slim, I'm like, stop it. Bullying me.
You can never call me slim either.
Okay, so today's theme was, praising, and when I asked Dana if that's what I should address as well, I hit our assets at Jero, and we've got loads of materials that are always useful for these types of things, and so a couple of things about appraisals today. First off, timely, we got an announcement at GRA earlier this week that things are going to be made a lot easier. Things are now a lot easier for accepting appraisals from other lenders. Situations in which you're come by a loan from another bank, company, whatever. For example, we're offering a better rate than they locked in at. They've hit an underwriting snafu. They want to switch lenders. We've made it much easier now to accept that appraisal. There are still a few rules, it has to be a reputable appraiser. If there are any material changes that need to be made to the appraisal, for example, it was an error, it was recorded as a condo and it's a PUD, they would need a new appraisal. But for the most part, you'll find it a lot easier. When I was telling Dana about this announcement, he said, well, what happens if they switch because of the appraisal? And that doesn't really change. If you get a bum appraisal with a lender and they're not going to let you, or all your efforts to contest it have failed, you can switch. Now there's a gamble. You might end up with the same or worse of an appraisal, but you can always do that, except for government loans, FHA loans, where the appraisal goes with the buyer. So I have a few. I'm gonna circulate these for everybody. I don't know. I bet Linda has something like these in her packet. Love to give you one with my picture on it and your picture. We could do these for everybody. But some tips to, for example, here for sellers to look for before an appraiser shows up. What do you want to make sure that you address before somebody like Bob shows up? paint, leak some water. I don't want to read the whole thing because I have limited time. But give me one more slide. This is how you. Okay, we just addressed that one. The appraisals will continue to be reviewed before being transferred, but it's just going to be a lot easier. And that's the whole point of this slide right here in my first part of my talk. Okay.
Do you want your first one back?
I want the one that says the FH, when appraisal come in low.
There you go.
This is a solution that I don't see utilized often enough. When you have an appraisal that comes in low or has repairs, you can go back and negotiate, try to get the sellers to fix things, try to renegotiate the price. But you might have a dead deal on your hands. A way to fix it is to consider switching that loan to a 203K, which is a renovation loan. The 203K is specifically FHA, but it's the only loan program that allows you to take into account the future value of the property. So if you need $10,000 worth of repairs, the sellers won't do it. Your buyers don't have the money. They can finance it by switching to a 203K. They have to get a buyer who, they have to have an actual licensed contractor who has to submit some information for approval with the bank. It's an easy process. It's not for do-it-yourselfers or owner builders or weekend warriors. You have to have, a professional doing this work. But an appraiser will look at the specs for the repairs and base the appraisals on that. And that new number, the new price of the value of the home after the appraisal is what the loan's based on. And a buyer could put 3.5% down based on that. They could ask for 6% seller assist based on those numbers. So it is a way to save and restructure a deal that's gone awry, mainly because of either value or condition. That's what I really wanted to talk about.
Will the second appraisal come in similar to the first? So you said this is a solution if the appraisal comes in low.
Yeah.
But what if the appraisal comes in higher and then you still have a buyer that's like,
the new appraisal is based on the repairs.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So if you mean if you're ditching a lender because an appraiser, you're not happy with the appraisal, you can't do anything about it. It's a gamble.
Okay.
It's a gamble that your next lender,
That makes sense.
us, will come in the same or lower. You never know.
Okay.
If you believe that the data is there and your lender refuses to acknowledge it, maybe your agent has, as a buyer, your agent has the data. So it's like, I have the comps, they're not looking at it. You can help the appraisal along, but there's no guarantees.
Okay.
But we can't influence it.
Reappraise it after the repairs. Hopefully they put value into it.
So we're talking about two different things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if it's appraised low and there are too many repairs, or there are too many repairs, or both, a 203K or reno loan is a way to save that deal.
No.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't use it.
Nope.
So if you do that then, and you switch loans type, so then you're saying you don't have to get another appraisal done, or you don't have to, how does that work then? Like if you switch to 203K loan after conditions were called out on the first one, say they were going conventional, like what does that actually look like?
No. So if you are unhappy with your lender because your appraisal came in low, can't blame the appraiser for the lender for the appraiser. But if the lender says to you, we can't help you, we're not gonna acknowledge these comps, they're not good enough for whatever reason, too bad, this is your price, take it or leave it. And you say, I'm gonna try my luck with another lender. That's one situation. And you would automatically, that new lender is gonna order a new appraisal. If you're leaving a lender for different reasons, you could take that appraisal with you. And the point of that slide was that we're making it easier to accept another lender's appraisal. Now, if you have a deal that comes in low because of because of value, or primarily because of condition, or the value because you don't have another bathroom, for example, then you can use a 203K loan to make the improvements to that property.
Right. That's what
That's what you're asking. And in that case, you need a new appraisal. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're getting a whole new loan.
So then we're looking at like a lot more.
Yeah. If you're saving a deal, but you're not going to save your closing date for sure. Yes. You're going to start this process. They're going to get contractors. It's not going to be quick, but you're saving your deal. Your buyer's going to get that house, and they're going to get a better house because they're making improvements before they even own it.
This might be not a question for you, but if we're switching loan types and we're switching closing dates and kind of restructuring things, yes, we may have saved the deal, but what if the seller is not okay with all of this?
Then you didn't save the deal. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So could go through all this for not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, they would
In your
want them to
worst case
agree to it first, just even switch lenders in the first place and get a new appraisal in there. So,
Okay.
but if it didn't appraise and it's not going to go through, they're probably going to be like, well, we're going to try to make this work. So it's usually in the seller's best interest. And because otherwise they might have to come down in price. You know,
And
the people don't have money.
And they know these problems exist. So they're going to deal with it now or later.
Yeah.
Mary?
What do you do about the rates if they go out on that 203?
It's a whole new pro.
Would it be good? Commitment if they're going to.
So if they're switching loans completely because of the repairs to get an FHA 203K, it's a new rate, new program altogether.
How long would it be locked?
Oh, the 203K, it's a standard 60-day lock, but I've not had them. I'm not needed to extend them during the period. So
have to be done with them that 2 months.
and the 60 days doesn't start until after the repairs are done when the loan fully converts over. Yes. That's when the count starts with the payments.
But they on the payments.
Yeah, it functions like a construction loan.
They can lock in a rate.
Oh yeah, and the same conditions apply. We have a float down option. If rates drop dramatically during the process, we fight for them to get a better rate. They will get a better rate. We fight for them to get the best rate. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Alrighty, Keystone Agent of the Month, Matt Vogel. He's not here. He had to go to a doctor's appointment, but congrats to him. He's been getting a lot of deals going on. I want to show you, they show us this every manager meeting, and I wanted to show it to you guys. We are in year-to-date 5th place right now for, this is capture rate and how many deals we're doing with Keystone. I would love to get up in that top 3. So we're getting one about every 5 deals Keystone is getting right now. I can hear myself.
Sorry.
And this is July. We were down at 18%. We had quite a few deals, but I would love to get our usage up here. If you can help out, give 1 out of every 3 deals. If you're not using them, if you haven't tried them in a while. And the one thing I will say, when you're using a different title company and things happen, like I don't have nearly as much pull of knowing who to reach out to and stuff like that. Sometimes if things happen with Keystone, I can go to Christy and go to Scott, who's even higher up and can help fix deals sometimes that it happens. So it's nice to have in our back pocket. We know who to talk to and figure things out. So if you are using them, appreciate it. But if you can give 1 of your next 3, that would be awesome. Try them out if you haven't tried them in a while. If you haven't got his number yet, Kit, the new Assurant Home Warranty, he's been great. If you put in an order yet, you should have seen an email from him thanking you and giving you a little bit more information. And they are asking, you could do it in My Deals, but it'll usually need a little bit more information sometimes that you have to email over after. Seems like the agent portal right now, until they get the My Deals structured right, everything, how this works, agent portal is going to be your best way to go. You can scan the QR code, or you can just Google Assurant real estate agent login, and it will go in there. You can sign up, and then you can get all your quotes and order your home warranties, and you get your invoices right from there. That's the easiest way to do it. All right, so going over our office active listings right now. We have 133 active listings, but a lot of them are over 30 days right now. I was actually really surprised by how many. So right now we have about $54 million of inventory out there right now. 410,000 is our average sales price. Average days in the market for our listings is about 40 days right now. And we have 78 listings. I was really surprised by this. 78 listings that are over 30 days on the market right now. So 55 right now are in that 0 to 30 days. In 31 to 60 days, you can see it goes up to 31, 17, 23, and 7. So we have a lot of inventory, a lot of your commissions sitting there waiting for some price reductions. So I want to talk over that a little bit. And I created some fancy slides here. I'm going to check these out, Claude. So I'm going to go into here. Screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
An old trick that we used to do, well, I needed to do, which I haven't had to do for years, is do a relist. I got a really substantial price reduction on one of my listings, and I thought, you know what? Not been out there that 60 days, but I'm going to do a relist. And actually, the showings picked up, and there's someone interested in it. So
good.
Do that for my Foxcroft. And I'm getting a good price reduction. I'm going to do another relist.
Yeah.
We can get it back out there.
Right. And that's a good point. I didn't have that in here. If you are going to relist, a nice little trick, I know of you know this, but say you have 123 Banana Street and you spell out street, when you relist it, just put an ST, abbreviate that, because then it's not going to show on your history as much. If the agent's good, they're going to go in and they can look at everything. but it is a nice little trick that you're not going to see the full history there if you do change that from street to ST. Okay. But the Labor Day window, has anybody seen a little bit the market, your houses, your listings kind of slowing down, not as many showings right now? I mean, it kind of happens this time of the year. Every year, there's a little Labor Day lull. Kids are going back to school, and they continue to usually stay slow through Labor Day. Me and Marsha just had this conversation yesterday about a listing. Go ahead and reduce or wait until after. Yeah, get even better. So it is something that is very common. I wouldn't freak out and say, "Oh my gosh, your listing's not selling. What are we doing? Like, are we overpriced?" But let's start looking at it of, "Hey Chuck, what's going on?" And seeing what's going on in the market and your listing. So what I want you to do, if you have any listings out there right now that are sitting, I want you to go back and run the comps, pull the comps, see what's going on in the market, what's active right now, what new has come on the market. Has there been any price reductions? If there has been price reductions, how much of a price reduction did they do? And did they get any offers quickly after they did that price reduction? And then what went under contract or contingent in your market in the last 30 days? So then you can say, like, hey, if we have 5-10 listings out there in X neighborhood and nothing is moving at all, it might not be the house or the price. It could just be the market is slow right now. And like I said, I feel like there's less showings than normal right now this time of the year, but like I said, it happens every time of the year. So what I want you to do is run the comps first so you're prepared to have this conversation with your sellers. So now, if you're off base on price after you run it, things are moving in that neighborhood at prices below where you are, the comps say, okay, probably need to have a reduction conversation with sellers. Now, if the market is just moving slower, that's another conversation like, hey, maybe we wait or we do a little bit of price reduction potentially to stick out. So when you talk to your sellers, start with the time of the year. Start talking about that. What's going on with the calendar? It is always one of the slowest times of year. So this is a good little talk track. I want to talk you through the next few weeks with you between school starting and Labor Day. This is a stretch that usually is the slowest of the season, and it typically picks up afterward. I also went back and pulled everything that happened in your neighborhood in the last 30 days. So let me walk you through what I am seeing. And then you can have that conversation with them. You have the comps ready to go. And you can have that, sometimes it's a tough talk to have with sellers of, we need to reduce your house. So then I want you to, after you have that conversation with your sellers, I want you to figure out what category these sellers are in. Is it seller A? Are they an immediate need? Maybe they're contingent on selling their house to buy something else. Maybe they quickly need to move. Maybe they don't have a whole lot of money for payments and stuff like that. Like whatever happens, if it's immediate need and they need to sell it now, I would just do that price reduction. Get it done if it's immediate need. But I think most people are going to be in the B. They're going to want to wait. I would recommend waiting until after Labor Day. Just a few more weeks. That's 2 more weekends to wait to have your price reduction. So seller A, just do your price reduction now. Just don't wait. That could be a relist one if you want to. Just a whole new listing, look fresh. Just hit it right now with the price reduction. Usually your Wednesday, Thursday, even Tuesday, your best time to do it. I wouldn't do it on like Friday night for your price reduction. Get people over there on the weekend. Try to hold an open house. If it's seller B, hold then reduce after Labor Day. So you could say this, I could reduce this week, but we are doing it at the slowest stretch of the season. If you can give me until the end of the week after Labor Day, I would rather make the same reduction than put an open house behind it. That's the best way to do it. Price reduction, open house right after. So how much of a price reduction? Ideally, most of the time, we're looking for a 5% price reduction. That's going to be the most meaningful to get the market to move, to get buyers to say, I'm willing to come through and now look at this house. It seems worth it. Or maybe buyers who were already there before are willing to come back. So when you have that price reduction, anybody who's gone and looked at it, anybody's come through your open houses, any past appointments, reach out to them, let them know, hey, we just have this good price reduction. Please come to the open house, or I could do a private showing or schedule another showing, tell the agent. Okay. If you're doing a little bit like say you're listed at 400 and we're going to do a $5,000 price reduction. Is that enough to really get buyers to be like, okay, it's really worth it now, $5,000? 5% is going to tell you a lot more where you are. And I don't know if you ever seen historically or if any of you guys have ever done this, but when you do a bigger price reduction, usually that's where you get the multiple offers after you've been on the market for a while, where people are like, okay, it's worth it now, I'm going to get in there. Rather than just a little one, usually a couple weeks after that, you're going to see another little one. And then the longer you're on the market, people are going to start saying, what's wrong with it and how low can I get it for? Okay. So here's ideally what you're going to do after Labor Day. Tuesday, do a price reduction. Thursday, hold a twilight open house. And then Saturday or Sunday, do an open house and then get all the feedback that you can, report back to your seller. This is how many showings we had. This is how many people went through the open house. So you can really figure out, hey, we are priced good. Hopefully we got offers, or this is where we're standing. This is what the market's doing. Okay, ready. Let me get off from that. And I'll send you all these slides as well. All right, so Linda was kind enough to show us her appraisal packet that she leaves by. Do you want to come show it off?
Oh, okay.
So she leaves this. Go ahead and you could tell them what you do.
Okay. I always pull together the agreement of sale, sold that are, and for one time I've had something appraised under purchase price because the agreement of sale was not fully executed. I don't know how the appraiser got that agreement of sale, and we sold it for higher than what the agreement of sale that he had in hand. So I always know it's a good idea to include an agreement of sale sold that purchase price or higher. Don't try to put in solds that are lower and, try to figure out why yours is better than that one. Not a good thing. What else do I put in there? I put the subject property, multi-list printout and all the photos, a copy of a brochure. Improvement list is really important to show what has been done to the property. And also, if you have multiple offers, definitely put a note in there, about multiple offers, because then it shows that there was more value to the property. And I always put it together in a nice packet. I don't know if Bob's ever got one of these from me.
Yep.
Yeah. And, how do you feel about receiving? Pardon me?
Love it.
Good.
Good. That's awesome.
And I always ask if it's okay. And typically, always.
All too often, agents don't elaborate on the multiple offers. Multiple offers are so important. I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's an open door to a lower value just because it's listed at 420 and you had 430, 3 at 435, and then that one crazy guy came in at 470, and you're in an agreement for 470, and we can't reach it, but we know it's worth the 435.
Right. You want to see the multiple offers. I never include them.
It's a lot of paperwork, but an email with the PDFs,
Okay.
we love that.
What about that sheet and the multi-list? I have multiple offers. It's it's
The summary, you mean?
Oh,
the summary.
In zip forms?
Yeah,
yeah.
it's easy.
I don't
The
meet the
attachments to where the home disclosure is and all that.
No.
No, we have a summary in zip forms when you have multiple offers that says this is offer 1, 2, and 3, more for the seller to go
Oh.
over, where you can put all the prices in and everything.
For showing time, you know how to get a hold of us.
Sure.
correct.
Too. And all you got to do is ask for an email address and shoot us those offers in an email. We're not going to print them out, but we're certainly going to look at them for sure.
Right. Right.
And anybody who says differently should be not doing appraisals.
And, I always hear from different agents saying, oh, my house didn't appraise. And I said, well, why didn't you do an appraisal package? And I always hear, well, that's the appraiser's job, not the agent's job. Of course, we're representing the seller. It's so important. But I can't remember the last time I didn't have a listing, that I had a listing that did not appraise.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Too, because
So
I've heard about a lot of them.
But I've had buyers that it did not appraise.
Yeah.
So,
That-
yeah.
Yeah, got the
Any questions for me?
Copy of your package or the
Yeah, there's a package here if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, and I'll send all these slides out too to you so you can see everything. I just took a picture of it and put in everything that she has in there.
You have what she does in your.
Yep, I took a picture of
Yeah.
everything and put it in the slides. Stuff.
And the upgrade list is so important. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda.
All right. Bob, we'll have you up. Let's talk about everything you do, the changes we're having, and all the questions I know you guys are going to have. So thank you very much for coming in.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So, Owen Appraisal Service is about 32 years old. We're very proud of that. We have a team of 4 residential appraisers and me. We have a team of 3 commercial appraisers and me. I do both. And we cover 5 counties: Butler, Beaver, Washington, Westmoreland, Allegheny. We generally do about 12 orders a day, which gives us about 240 a month, which gives us nearly 3,000 a year. So we've got a pretty deep database. I will answer any question. One of my things, I do a lot of these, by the way, and one of the things I wanted to do when I first started doing them is I always guaranteed people I would give you an actual answer. You know, when you do the appraisal talk, there's a lot of, well, it depends. And that's not an answer. First off, I'd like to thank Roger for all the business we get from Guaranteed Rate, because they're like in our top 10, maybe top 5. So that's awesome. And to his point about appraisals not coming in, about 2 years ago, by the way, Fannie and Freddie rule the world. Everything we do is dictated by Fannie and Freddie. On the side, there's a thing called USPAP, Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, which are the rules for appraisers. They do everything knowing those rules exist, and they try to create a system that honors those rules. It is what it is, right? And to his point, 10 years ago, USPAP changed and got rid of the requirement for a written release of an appraisal. 10 years or more ago, you couldn't do what he was talking about. You'd have to have a written release from the appraiser to allow that report to go from dollar bank to Guaranteed Rate. They did away with that a long time ago. And as appraisers, we used to get away with like a $50 reprint fee because we had to change the name and the dates and stuff like that. And so when they did that, we were all like, geez, another reason why we're not getting 50 more bucks out of this deal. But it made sense because it is what it is. It's a report on a value on a certain date. Who cares who the lender is, right? It's not like we did it differently for Guaranteed Rate or someone else. So the transferability of the appraisal 10 years ago by appraiser rules was opened up. And now that, I guess, as Roger mentions, is now happening on the lender side. I got a million things racing through my head right now, so stop me if I say anything that you need an answer to. We are heavily regulated as appraisers. There's a giant computer somewhere in DC that runs the Fannie and Freddie world, and it reads our reports in a nanosecond, and it catches mistakes and sends them back to the lender, who sends them back to us, who asks us to do a revision. When we send a report, we generally have a website that we go through and pay a fee to upload the PDF to that website. But when it gets uploaded, the software also uploads something called an XML file. XML files you can't even read them. It's symbols. It's not words. And one time I had a lender print out an appraisal, and it was 32 pages. The XML version of it was 185. If you tried to print it all out, right? But the computer reads it in a split second, and it catches the appraiser doing something wrong immediately. For example, let's say I used 45 Maple Avenue 7 months ago, and I said it was 1,700 square feet. And then I used 45 Maple Avenue last week, and I said it was 1,800 square feet. Boom, you're busted. That computer knows it, sends you a letter, gives you a warning, and you're in trouble. Let me give you an example. So just yesterday, one of my guys got this letter. It's dated August 10th, and it's from Fannie Mae. As you can see, Fannie Mae on there. And these are the kinds of things we have to deal with every day. Before I read this letter to you, let me explain something. To Roger's point, about 2 years ago, they came out with something called an ROV. We used to think that meant recertification of value, which is when an appraisal was about 90 days old. They asked for an ROV to see if the value had gone down any, and we would say, no, it hasn't, blah, blah, blah. Now an ROV means reconsideration of value. Did I say that right? No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So 2 years ago, they did that. Now, do you think they came up with that program to make sure that your value came in? No, they did it for one reason. They wanted to eliminate bias. In other words, they wanted to give the lender a chance to demonstrate that there was no bias towards the buyer or seller for race or or whatever reason. Like no bias involved. Like this guy didn't like the guy, or he didn't like the artwork on the wall or something like that. Who knows what it is? But they came up with the reconsideration of value to give everybody a chance to contest the appraisal. So the rules to the ROV are these. The lender is now required at the time of application to give them a little sheet that says, in the event that your appraisal doesn't come in, or you feel as though you were not treated fairly by the appraiser, you're allowed to contest that appraisal. And the ridiculous part about it is, Fannie says it must be from the borrower. Well, what does the borrower know about all the sales that have occurred? They just feel like they want it changed for whatever reason, right? And they feel maybe that they were somehow victims of bias. So you're allowed to provide the appraiser 5 sales. They limited it to 5 because you imagine somebody sending over 40 sales. However, the appraiser, when he gets the ROV, must address each of those 5 sales and why they did or did not use them. I would say 2 of 100 change the appraisal because maybe you come across something you didn't know. You know, an off-market sale on the same street, you're like, oh, wow, you know, and you look into it, your real list shows it closed, the county shows it closed. There was a prior listing 2 years ago that tell us what the room count was and what the condition was. We look at all that stuff. Oh, man, maybe we were low. So we change it and we resubmit it with a new signature date. And as soon as you change the report and give it a new signature date, you upload it to the portal that delivers it to the lender, but it also delivers it to Fannie Mae at the same time. An XML report, back in the day when everything was all the fraud occurred in 2007, 8, and 9, and 10, the big problem was whiteout. People were whiting out the appraisal and changing it. So what XML?
They did it on W-2s too.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, what a photocopy will do. It looks good, right? So, and now AI will create anything. But so don't lose your train of thought here, Bob. So the XML file does not overwrite the first version, it just adds to it. And in another split second, the computer reads both reports and it knows exactly what's different about this one and this one. Okay. So if you were upset and you just called up and complained like what happened all the time, if you made a change, that computer knows you made that change. And in the report, you have to discuss why. If you don't, then it just seems like you were bullied into another number, or you just don't know what you're doing and you changed it. But if you do an ROV and you have a response and an addendum to each of the sales, it knows that and it reads that. So to wrap that issue up, there's a thing called an ROV. It was originally designed to avoid bias, but it is also an open door to contesting the value with good data. Go ahead.
The appraisal that you do, send it to the computer to do its thing. The lender receive the appraisal report before or after that computer does its thing.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
It's a very technical answer, and the simple way to put it is, the way I understand it is, it goes to the portal and it goes to Fannie and the lender simultaneously, but I think they're not able to open the PDF until Fannie's received the XML. It all happens so simultaneous that you would never notice. So they're able to.
Don't see it, or the computer is the buyer.
Everything happens simultaneously. So even if the lender's opening the PDF the day we send it to them, Fannie's already gotten the XML.
The lender sends it to the buyers. So usually there's a holding period that the lender has. Well,
That's part of why we don't.
yeah. So it gets released to the public. This gets released to the profession.
Right. So underwriting's gotten it. They've decided that the loan is so-called, I don't know what the terminology would be, but it's declined contingent on something, and you can do the ROV and blah, blah, blah. Now, I will tell you, we hate ROVs. We don't want to hear ROVs. We're bogged down when we get an ROV. You got to stop what you're doing. In our office, we have a policy where any callback gets addressed the day it comes in. So if I had any callback, we address the day the callback comes in. There's a lot of people who drag their feet, and from what I hear, and so, if you had 3 to write that afternoon and you thought you'd be out of there by 6, you're probably not getting out of there by 6 because you got an ROV that day, or 2. So it happens. But anyway, this computer's tracking everything we do. Go ahead.
The company, and before we even get the appraisal, it goes to the third party management company. They do their due diligence on the appraisal. If they find something that they don't like or they don't want, they'll go back to the appraiser and ask for a revision. Goes back to the third party management company and then comes to us. We underwrite and then it goes to the buyer.
That's true. That's true.
And you still was that typical? Is that a typical process?
Yes, that's very, very, very. There's a lot of third parties involved.
This is a part of the 2008 changes to insulate, protect appraisers from being pressured. Yeah. So I know that I can't call Bob. Like, hey, what the hell is
There's
this?
no communication between them. But the third party, what are they looking for?
They have a massive checklist.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Quality control.
yeah, it's an early review / underwrite. What our issue is, or let's say my issue is, they know more about what they're doing than these third parties. These are like college kids who just got hired, and they're sitting there in their booth and they got their headset and they're going over their thing and they're like, oh, I don't see the shed on here, you're like, "Okay, shed, blah, 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 blah." The third parties, they're all very different. Some are a pain in the ass. Others are pretty fluid and they're quick. You get an email. It's a simple change. Like you forgot to put the code borrower's middle initial in there because the 1004, which is the appraisal report, has to match the 1003 exactly, or the uniform postal service code. If the postal service says it's something something court and we have something something lane,
That's probably the most common.
right? So, and these little things like that, our office staff does that. They get it over and they say, oh, well, I can fix that. And they go in there, re-upload, boom, it's gone. The appraiser never even knew about it because we're service oriented. And it says, I'll just read this illustrated example. It says incorrect usage. That says local demographics influence real estate trends and positive market growth. That's
Again.
Local demographics influence real estate trends and positive market growth. Doesn't sound like anything wrong with that, right? But wait a minute. It doesn't sound like a problem, right? Okay. Which is true. Like demographics, population, employment, earning power kind of influence real estate, right? Okay. All right. The preferred alternative is this. The city is experiencing growth with a population of 250,000 that has increased by 5% annually for the past 7 years.
Okay.
Which is demographics. But they don't want you to use the word demographics. Our report has many built-in statements throughout it to save time, the redundancy of it all. And our report says this. This is a fragment of a sentence in a bigger message about the scope of work that's required to be noted in the report. It says, such understanding will not be imparted solely from a consideration of specific data such as demographics, cost, sales, and rentals. So such understanding will not be imparted solely from a consideration of specific data such as demographics, cost, sales, and rentals. We're actually saying that these things will not solely impact the outcome. But we get a letter.
So you've gotten pinged for it?
Excuse me?
You got pinged for
Absolutely.
stating that?
Here's the letter. You can't get more than 3 of these a year.
What triggered the letter?
Wow.
What?
Fannie Mae got an XML.
So you don't even know exactly what detail of what appraisal triggered that.
Well, we do, because we went back into our report and found where this comment is. And we,
The problem is he's saying they said it's not that.
Yeah.
right. There's nothing wrong with what we said. We just used the word demographics. They have a list of words. Woman. Yeah. church, you name it. The list is enormous, and the computer reads it in a split second. And this is the kind of crap we got to
So the
deal with.
word demographics is on the list.
Yep. Don't ever use it.
Yeah, I mean, if we target a certain thing, we'll get that flag. Family could potentially get fined.
Right.
It's the more that we use it. So I understand the frustration.
Yeah, it's
So that's 3 per or your company.
per person because we're individual. It doesn't happen often, but we take it serious. And then we have to write a letter, Fannie Mae, explaining to them how we changed our reports to no longer have that phrase in it. Well, they take it off of your list of 3 once you address them in writing. You have to. All right. So ROVs and all this XML, we covered that. One other recent thing in the last 2 to 5 years or whatever is ANSI, American National Standard Institute, which is how you measure a house. Just to go real quick through it, gross living area is 100% above grade, finished consistent with the remainder of the dwelling, heated by the main heat source, and has a ceiling height of no less than 7 feet.
Say that one more time.
Sure. Its gross living area is 100% above grade. So if you go to multi-level, even though you're entering, the garage is here, and you go up to the front door, but on the side of the house here, it grades up, and there's no exit from that entry level, and that's 2 feet below grade in the back. That entry level is not gross living area. So it's 100% above grade, finished consistent with the remainder, because there are sometimes rooms that are unfinished or not really, whatever. So finished consistent with the remainder, heated by the main heat source. So if you got an attic room that has an electric baseboard heater that's not being heated by the gas forced air furnace, that's not heated by the main heat source. And then if you have a Cape Cod, sorry about that. If you have a Cape Cod where you go upstairs and, the room is like this, right? Well, at least 50% of that room has to be above 7 feet. So how do we do that? Right? We have these little lasers, right? And we go until we find the 7-foot mark, right? From the floor to the ceiling. And then we put our thing up on the ceiling and shoot it over to there. Okay. And we get 8 feet. Then we go over to where it's like 4 feet high and you shoot it over to there and we get 14 feet. So it's over 50% above 7 feet. So the whole room, no, not the whole room, only the 5 foot high to the 5 foot high area. So
you have to put up imaginary walls, essentially.
Right. So I'm 5 foot right here. So I always go over to the, thing, hit it, and then I take my laser and go over there to like this. So it was 14, but I'm only giving them credit for 12. So it's 12 by 12, even though it's 14 by 12. But I only was allowed to do that because more than half was above 7.
Okay. Well, how should we as realtors look at that just as an example when we're pricing a house and they have a sunroom off the back that's pretty large, fully above grade, but it has a mini split,
4-season room.
right? And then they have the,
So let me,
XYZ upstairs.
so I tend to get real negative, but let me go back to some positive. It's not your responsibility. It's not the seller's responsibility. It's not the buyer. It's none of this. It's not even the lender. The appraiser should know what he or she is doing. So when they select comparables, they're trying to find a sale that has that 4-season room. Or if you're doing a Cape Cod, try to keep them all Cape Cods.
So when we're pricing, we can explain to our sellers, this is why I'm pricing it this way and not this way, because this, although a lot of elements in the phase, we have to compensate for this element, so we don't get in a sticky appraisal situation. And we implemented their kind of say, it might, whatever, and okay, but we can't, you have to find as much comparable as possible to help the situation. Okay.
And I'll take your question, but this is where I like to jump in and say, you cannot take enough pictures. And if we get a listing that doesn't have a picture of the rear of the house, we're, as a comp, we're grinding our teeth. Because in that multi-level situation, if we have comps, we are going to find one that has that same entry level that's not considered GLA. Because if you have a 22 by 25 living room, dining room, kitchen area and a 24 by 25 three-bedroom bath area, that's all that's being considered GLA for that particular house we're appraising. Because this is finished lower level and this is garage. So if we look for comps, we're going to run multi, splits, whatever's raised ranches. If we have enough photos, we can find one that says, oh, here's one right here that you entered the front door, but it's considered. And then in the report, the GLAs match. So it reduces the amount of adjustment that was necessary to that particular sale. So that becomes sort of a boss sale where we can rely more on it than others. Okay, you were first.
Actually, for my own health, so hopefully it'll be putting up here in like 2 months. So we don't have forced air up our rooms on the 3rd floor. I want to use it as a bedroom because it's a little over 400 square feet, which would be nice to use. So my husband planned on putting up a mini split. But you're saying if 50% of the rooms not
Let me say this.
even worth it, then.
No. It's worth it. Always worth it. It's always worth it. You enhanced the utility of your house and offered more utility on a daily basis to the buyer and the seller. Buyers and sellers don't care about any of this. You see what I mean? That's the frustrating part is in the end, we got to tie a bow on this thing and write an explanation. It says, blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you this ANSI thing, when we write an appraisal, and I hate to bring grids and start getting into the weeds, but there's a GLA line and they look, and then
GLA.
gross living area above grade. Yeah. So what the computer looks at a lot of times is the sale price divided by the gross living area to a price per square foot. You have a Cape Cod that met ANSI requirements and it's 2,000 square feet, but you have a Cape Cod that's down the street that's a great comp. And we looked at the photos and we could tell it didn't meet ANSI because it was this and this and this. So we took the first floor and called it the gross living area. Then we addressed the square footage that was in the second floor in a separate line item. And let's say we made a $50 per square foot adjustment. Well, we made a big adjustment positive to that comp because it was smaller. And then we took off for the second floor because the subject didn't have that. So there's a net, right? It's a lot of confusion, right? So wait a minute. Here's the bigger problem, though. They're selling for the same price, but one's 2,000 square feet and the other one's 1,200 square feet. So the price per square foot mathematically is way out of whack. That's all the computer sees. So it says it's a bad comp. It's complicated. It's complicated. Go ahead.
So next question. So I have one that has this huge 4-season room and they're putting that's probably what it's called, not a soft gun, heat pump, air conditioning. And so you're saying that they would.
That's like an auxiliary, though.
All right. Well, so here's the deal. I'm a candid guy, so if I say things that make you uncomfortable, please forgive me. 8 out of 10 appraisers aren't even going to pick up on. They see forced air. They see forced air. How many houses have 2 furnaces? I have 2 furnaces. You know what I mean? So it's forced air. It's forced air. They don't even really get into the weeds. When I talk to you about these things, I talk to you about them knowing the exact rules and regs and all this stuff. And I'm assuming, but the reality is you go into a house and you see forced air, 2 furnaces, you're okay. No, this isn't an issue, right? It just really isn't an issue. However,
Electric baseboard?
excuse me?
Unless you see the electric baseboard.
Yeah, but it's like the cheesy electric baseboard stuff that you get in, old houses in the city that, you're like, wow, this has got to be handled separately. Here's the deal. You took 1 million photos, right? So we're looking at the photos very closely of the comps to see whether there's any heat ducts in there, whether there's any radiators in there, or are there any baseboards in there. We're looking for this stuff to try and figure out, is it really going to be perceived by the buyer the same way as our subject that we're appraising? Doing a lot of that, really looking at things. And you know who else is doing it? The kids at the third party who are also going on the MLS and looking at these pictures and calling us out on it and saying, hey, we didn't see any radiators on the 3rd floor, blah, blah, blah. You have hot water heat in the subject, blah, 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 blah. You're like, damn, these kids are good. you just like overwhelmed by, just how much scrutiny that goes into this stuff. But I'm just sharing with you the ROB and the ANSI stuff. This is old news. You ready for the really, really exciting news?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is really why I'm here. November 1st of this year, every form that Fannie Mae ever developed for an appraisal, be it a condo, a multifamily, a single family, is being deleted. It will no longer exist. And there's going to be one report now. It's not a form, it's a report. We're doing a residential appraisal report.
So it'll be easier to read the appraisal or no?
You remember what's going to happen?
Okay. So I'm going to give you I like to do a little visual aid here, right? 32 years ago, I came up with this thing, this folder, and it has all the details of the order on it. Who the listing agent is, the selling agent, the borrower, the seller, the address, the date it came in, the date it's due, what we're charging the client, who the client is, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. It's all there, right? And then inside it is the county printout, the MLS printout, the real list printout, and the sales agreement. And here, Mr. Appraiser, go ahead and do your job. You've been armed with everything you need. In the back, we're at the property. The grid work is where we draw the house shape, the floor plan inside it, and the dimensions around it so we can measure it properly and and we might make little notes in each room like hardwood, carpet, vinyl, ceramic, whatever, right? This is all being written down. Then we took the description portion of the old form and cut and pasted it and created this little, thing here, amps, gallons, public water, well water, blah, 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 topography, blah, 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 all the stuff that would describe the house. And we fill it out right here. And we've got everything we need. Now we go and get comps and write the appraisal. Pretty simple, right? There's a new thing coming out called the UAD 3.6. UAD means Uniform Appraisal Data Set. UAD's been around for 7 or 8 years already. UAD is what allows the big computer in the sky to read the appraisal in a nanosecond because they just developed a code. I don't know if you read appraisals anymore, but like you don't say condition is good. You say the condition is C3 or C4 or C5, which means unlendable. C2 means like new, and C1 means new. No one's ever lived there. There is a glossary that comes with the appraisal now that you can read to see what those things all mean. For example, NBA. Whenever we have a view, it's either neutral, B for beneficial, A for adverse. So we got like a tower in the backyard. That's adverse. But B, beneficial, I can see the golf course in the third hole, right?
It's a relative term. It's beneficial, don't you think? I'm a smart ass, so
It's
beneficial.
it's okay. I'm not going to battle with you. The point is the borrower gets in a report that says, but I got an A. Yeah, A's not good. B is good. And N is who cares? It's neutral. What I'm getting at is they created this code that on a conversational level makes no sense, but it makes sense to the computer. So we have this folder we use to go out and do these appraisals, right? So UAD 3.6 is the new thing that's coming, and everybody has to use it by November 1st. It's coming fast. It's coming real fast. Okay. So I decided, well, they have a checklist for appraisers to go out and do the appraisal for the new UAD to collect data and make sure that you put all the data into the report correctly. Here it is. It's 24 pages long. So I got a clipboard and I'm going through it. Just this alone on page 2, we get to site influences. The first one, the type. Bordering, or is it off-site or on-site? In other words, let's say I have a koi pond. Site influence, it's on-site and it's either adverse, beneficial, or neutral. Well, it's beneficial. I gotta fill all this stuff out. It goes on and on and on and on. And I mean, it is.
So how much are your appraisals going to cost?
Well, that's a great question. I have an answer for that. I told you I always give answers. I have not communicated with my clients yet but I was working an outline of a letter or email to all the clients about the reasons why. And, my wife is my partner and she is head of sales and she's awesome at it. And I was sharing all this with her over the last 2 months. And she said, no one's going to read it. You're going to put all this time into it. You're going to put all this time into it. No one's going to read any of that. I'm like, yeah, but I want them to understand why. See, because they don't care. We've decided our policy is going to be whatever you paid before, because clients pay different amounts, believe it or not. One client might pay us $475, another one might pay us $550 because they're out of Massachusetts and they think $550 is a bargain because they're paying $800 up there. So they pay us $550. We love $550. We take the $550. $475, we like that too. Blah blah blah. The policy going forward is going to be this: whatever you were paying before, add $50. Now, in most cases, that's a 10%, 12%, or 8% increase over the prior fee. But the workload per job that we're going to experience is probably 30% more. For an example, I'll give you tangible examples. They want to know in the report the height of the ceiling in every room. They want to know how high or below the front door threshold is to the street level. So we got to laser this and tabulate this and that. They want to know, is the front door above the road, level with the road, or below the road? I don't know why, but the level of detail that they've now asked for is going to make it take a lot more time. For example, I'm in and out of an average house, say a 3,000 square foot house, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 3-car garage, blah, 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 nice pool in the back, deck, blah, blah, blah. 25 minutes. I go through the door, hey, hi, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they go, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. Click, 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 every room, click, 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 photos. We have to have a photo of every room now. And blah, 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 go outside, laser or tape measure, whatever. I'm a tape measure guy still. I'm out there in 25 minutes. But now I got to figure out the height of every ceiling in each room, the height of the house front door from the street. There's a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. So, we rely heavily on software to do our appraisals. And for 30 years, we used one company and we built a massive database. But we realized going into this a year ago that they're not very good at mobile applications. So we switched to the competitor back in December because we knew November was coming. So we knew we had to get our act together. So we bought a different software and I pay for both just in case, because we don't know what's going to happen. But this other company has a nice mobile application. So now we have these iPads and we go out there and we draw and we click, take a photo with it, blah, blah, blah. It's really slick. It's cool. However, because this has been jammed down the industry's throat by Fannie Mae, not by Guaranteed Rate, the software companies are not ready. Some of them are real ready. Some of them are nowhere near ready, and it's coming in November. So imagine the tool you use every day to write a report suddenly not being, for example, in the software we use now, the new one we use, which is pretty slick. We're writing the report and I've gone through and I've done my search and I've picked my comps and then I'm going to put them in a grid. And as soon as I put the address at the top of the grid, it lights up. It says, ooh, we have that in our database. So you click on it and it'll come up with, this is pretty cool, by the way. It'll come up whether you've used it before. And if so, there's all these check marks in the column where you've used it before. Boom, it imports it into the report. What happened? Consistency. We're describing it exactly as we did before. But this software also allows us, and we agreed to it, and many appraisers who use it do agree to it, they have a database in the cloud. So we'll see, let's say we didn't use it before, but it'll come up and say, 4 of your peers did use this comp. And you expand and it'll come out, it'll show you the 4 grids that the different appraisers used. And you can tell what's more correct than not correct by what is consistent in those 4. And you say to yourself, oh, okay, I like this one. This guy did a good job, or this one. So we click that and it imports it into our report. So we have the county to verify GLA. We have our own tabulations that we will do through the MLS. We've got this other report, and this is what it was called. Now, get this, that those other reports were uploaded by XML to Fannie Mae. So if you're different than the other guy, you're going to get a call back through the SSR report that says, why were you different than the other guys? So it's helping us be consistent throughout our own database, but also throughout our marketplace. Great software. UAD 3.6, it doesn't work yet. They can't do those. They can't take all these great tools we have now. They're still building out the way to fill out the form. So they call it a dynamic appraisal report. And the word dynamic means change, which means that as you're writing the report changes. Here's an example. We start out, address. Okay. Typically, when an appraisal we're writing now, we put in an address, there's a button that says public record search. And it goes out and searches the public records, and it has all the legal description, all the lot, blah, 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 prior sale history, blah, blah, blah. We hit a button, boom, it fills it out in our appraisal. Well, that doesn't work yet in 3.6. I'll keep referring to it as 3.6 so you know what I'm talking about. Well, that doesn't work yet. That comp search database overlay doesn't work yet. There's even trouble putting photos in the report now. Yeah, they want you, get this. So much of the appraisal is in a certain order. Site, which is outside the house, then interior, and then basement and mechanical, blah, blah, blah. They want you to take the pictures. This is how messed up this is. They want you to take the pictures in the order that they're going to appear in the report. I'm in a hurry. I got to see 4 houses today. Like, I took the picture of the bathroom before I took the picture of the back of the house. So it's a nightmare. It's going to get better, probably in a year. So you ask us why we're charging more money. It's more time. An appraisal fee is a time fee relationship. It's not we charge more for $1 million house than we do a $200,000 house, because then we'd all bring them in at $1 million because we get more money. It's how much time is involved. So we see, and we've done plenty of these 3.6s already, and we can tell there's like a 30% increase in time, but we're only going to go up about 10% in our fee structure. Now we're going to get blowback, and there's going to be clients who say we're not paying you more. That's going to be tough for us. We're already hurting right now because the market's slowed down in the last 3 weeks. Go ahead. Let's get Roger, and then he might go ahead.
Well, it might be can of worms. A lot of agents talking about data collectors showing a lot of interest. Doing the upfront work for appraisals. Is that what we can expect in the future?
Future is not good. I'm just going to say it out loud. I believe in 2 years' time, there will be no more residential appraisers. There will be no more residential appraisers because I'm borrowing money. I'm under agreement. I go to the house with my agent and I log into the app for my lender and I hit camera. And as I walk through the house, it's geo measuring the depth, the height, the size of every single room, the condition that it is. I go through the entire house. It's recording all this. I go outside. I walk around the outside of the house. It's measuring the size of it. It knows by satellite geo-spotting where exactly we are. And it has access to all this data we've been collecting for the last 20 years in this giant computer. It has your social security number, so it's going to run a credit check, of work verification, evaluation on the house, and it's all going to do it in a matter of 5 minutes. And it's going to be more right than we are. So, they talk about AI and it's going to create jobs. The point of the data collector is moot because even they're going to be replaced by the phone. Right. What he's talking about is there's a hybrid situation now where you don't need an appraiser can agree to do hybrid work where a data collector like yourselves signs up with a company and they hire you to go out and do the inspection. And you're going to take the pictures and you're going to measure the house and you're going to do all this stuff and you're going to upload it to a thing. I don't know what file. And that's delivered to the appraiser. Then he downloads it and he takes that, having never been to the house, doesn't know about the nightmare across the street.
Can't smell it.
Right. Yep. Those stains all kind of blend together in the carpet. So, and then he or she picks the comps and writes the appraisal and sends it in. And he does it for $175 instead of $475, and they pay you $75 to go out there and do it. So all of a sudden, the cost of this whole thing is only $225, $250.
out there assessing the value prior to.
But this is actually being hired to collect the data for the loan decision.
Yeah. Yeah. We tell you it's granite. We tell you it's new roof. We tell you it's
You still have to go there.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Well, now we don't.
Yeah. But
You can upload. You're on the hook for the size, the photo. You know what I mean? So it's a hybrid thing. Go ahead.
What can we expect of appraisals that come through within the next short period of time? Like before what you're talking about, AI completely takes over our world. And November 1st, when all hell is going to break loose in your world.
So the first thing you're going to expect is, instead of us getting things done in 8 days, it's probably going to take 2.5 weeks. It just is. So the first thing you're going to see is a slowdown. Now, will that get better in a year's time? Probably. But then there's so much change happening so fast. I don't know what's going to happen in a year's time.
2 questions. I have a gentleman that I'm trying to talk to, just hiring an appraiser to get a value for his home because he's tried to sell it for the last.
We do a lot of that.
Okay, how much?
$500 for a single family.
Okay, so yeah. The next question is, I always thought that you as an appraiser, like this house is a Fox Chapel house on 18 acres.
Uh-huh.
And a shitty school district.
Okay.
The Highland School District.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's just even say this: Western Township, Hampton Township, cheap like that. Do you still look at school districts for? In other words, here's a house in West Deer that is a split entry, and here's a house in Hampton Township, same split entry, but the market doesn't bear the same amount because of the school district.
Okay.
Still look at that?
Yeah, we do. So this is key, especially if you're trying to put together an ROV. You kind of want to know what the appraiser's head is all about. And I don't know about every appraiser, but there's a right way to do it. And I feel that we do it the right way. So here's what we do. A long time ago, I was young and impressionable and went to a seminar, and this guy got up there and he was talking about this kind of stuff. And he said something that stuck with me forever. And all my guys have been trained to understand it. When we go to the house, as we're driving to it, we're kind of like looking at where we are. Post-World War II, 1950s, ranches, blah, blah, blah. We're feeling it out. We get there, we pull up right away. We're like, oh, wow, that's nice. Or, ooh, what's that? So we're taking it in, right? Our job is to imagine who the most likely buyer is for that house. Now, can you imagine what the computer thinks of that frame of mind? Right, exactly. I'm discriminating. You know, you can't use the term walkability
Because not everybody can walk.
because not everybody can walk. Yeah. So don't put that in your advertising. Walkability is great from, to the coffee shop and the night spots. No. But anyway, I totally got off the track there. But we're supposed to think about who is the most likely buyer. And that begins our framework for our search. And I'll give you an example of where it gets different.
You're not going to use a Highland School District for a Fox Chapel School District. It's just not. I mean, I don't see that happening.
Okay, I'll get back to that.
Okay.
So I got this really laid out, super posh 5-year-old 2-bedroom townhouse. Do I care about school district?
Maybe.
No, not at all. Because the most likely buyer doesn't have a bunch of kids. So, but what I'm getting at is, now all of a sudden that school district boundary for me is not that big of a deal, right? And let's say I might be in Ross. It would be criminal to go to North Allegheny, right? No, I will go to North Allegheny. I will go within a miles. I want to be close to the same places and things to do and all that other stuff. But I care less now about school district because the property type.
Then it's a different.
Right. Everything is relative to the real estate in hand because everything is different. Every real estate is unique. But what I'm getting at is school district is not the end all.
Okay.
However, it is a starting point in our most likely search. We always describe it as an archery target, and the outer ring is the school district. The next ring is the municipality. The next ring is the subdivision. And the next ring is the street you're on, and the bullseye is what I can see from the front door. And so when we do searches, we always like to go to the front door and look at the 2-year window, because we're doing what you do. This whole 1 month, 6 month, 1 mile thing what's reality? Because the guy who lives there knows about that house that sold 18 months ago. And he's saying, well, those people got 350 and they don't have this and that and the other thing. Well, you're right. The appraiser doing it correctly should first go to the map and draw this little circle and say, show me everything that's sold in that little circle in the last 2 years. Now I know something about it, and I might find something worth printing out. Then I go back and I start my search. And when we do demographic reporting in the report, without using that word, we look at everything in the municipality that is active, contingent, under agreement, and sold in the last year. And we print out the statistical summary. You know about the statistical summary? It's in the MLS. It's awesome. It's in every one of our reports. It tells us how many active listings there are in aggregate, how many sales there were in aggregate, and that's where we judge whether we have a shortage of supply or an oversupply. And if you've got an active inventory of more than 50% of what's sold over the past year, you're kind of at equilibrium. That's normal. If you only have 19 listings and 133 sales in Westview, you got a shortage of supply, period. Then we go back and rerun it by putting in the criteria of what is our true comp. And the easy way to do it would be to say ranch. All of a sudden, you've eliminated all that other stuff. And in Westview, there may only be 40 ranches. So now we have a micro representation of the competition and inventory that has occurred that are ranches in Westview. Okay? And that goes into the market conditions addendum. I'm really, hitting you with a lot of stuff. But we do have a system that makes sense, and it's trying to identify the data that is the most relevant to the house we're appraising. So when you submit comps, please try to do the same. Don't give us the two and a half story renovated house on the same street as the ranch that we killed, because we're just gonna immediately say not a comparable property, completely different style and size and condition, and we'll just go through and beat them down,
even though it's on the same street.
right? But try to do what I'm talking about doing is, go here, then go here, then go here, keep it recent and keep it relative. Would the buyer consider this house in replacement of this house? That's what a comparable is. Go ahead.
My son just moved to New Jersey by condo, and he had the view of the skyline of New York. And now there's like some high-rise stuff that blocks some of the view he had before. And he's just done there. Does that value this property?
We'll only know until they start selling, and it's since that building was built.
He's the tax.
So like another example. Yeah.
He's like really disturbed by it, but haven't even known it's going to happen.
Right. Well, I'll give you an example. I bought a condo in Florida a while back, strictly for investment. And when we were at the place, it was a giant horseshoe building that went down, then it was beachfront, and then it came down, north side, south side. And we were looking at a unit on the south side, and I looked over, and there was this vacant lot, and then there was a Marriott and a bunch of other stuff. It's beachfront, right? And I was looking at that lot, and I kept thinking to myself, what if they build a building right there? And all of a sudden, my ocean view, which is partial, is no longer an ocean view at all. So what I did was I went to the county and researched what the requirements would be to build on that lot. So I have the dimensions of the lot and how big it is and how wide it is and how deep it is. Then I went to their municipal code to say what the minimum setback would be on either side, the front, blah, 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 blah. So I started figuring out how big of a building could they build on that lot, right? And I was like, you know what? It's unbuildable. And that's probably why it's not been built on. So when I figured out it was unbuildable, I bought the unit, thinking my view. But you got to do the research first to figure out, am I going to be put in that position? Somebody's hand went up. Someone, go ahead.
So there's a neighborhood in Ross that 2 of the streets on it were completely built by Don Owen, who was an architect who studied under Frank Lloyd Wright. With those houses, some of them, the kitchen is on the bottom floor, but how do you as an appraiser compare those? I mean, there's obviously some in the neighborhood, but not a lot of them have been sold. And do you then look at other like works from the same architect that may be in a different area?
Yes.
Okay.
So to your point and to your point, an appraisal generally has 3 sales, and those are 3 sales that are within the last 6 months or within the last mile, in a mile, and they are considered by the computer to be comparable. Then we add a 4th sale, a 5th sale, a pending sale, an active listing. And now we kind of draw a conclusion from all of that, but we always have to have the first 3 comply with the overall underwriting guidelines that are 6 months, 1 mile, and style and size and all that stuff. But then we'll go beyond that. In some cases, we might have a 2-year-old sale because it was that same architect and what it did then was establish a price per square foot, which we know we should at least be at today or more, and on and on and on. There's a lot that goes into the unique property appraisal. Hence, the fee we sometimes rebid. We'll be asked to do a job, and my staff will go in and look at it and go, oh, and they're calling me or ringing me, and I said,
This is going to take a long time.
yeah, $750. Right. It's going to, yeah, go ahead.
To me, the appraisal is always in favor of the buyer because obviously the buyer is the one that's in the lender. But what happens when the appraisal price is higher and no one says anything? So the banker there is the seller.
Seller never sees it.
Exactly.
So what is it? It's no problem.
Buyer's going to be mad if it's out there. Get the box.
Right.
Exactly.
So let me correct.
No, let me finish. So why don't we say anything to the seller when it's higher? And we always say a lot when it's lower because the buyer is buying the car.
Because the loan's been approved.
Exactly.
So you're closing. You're done.
Yeah, but we are.
No, we're working. You guys, let me correct one thing she said right out of the gate that you have to understand. We're working for the lender. We don't care, buyer, seller. The lender wants to know, does the collateral exist to make this loan in the event that they don't make the payments, that we can take it back and unload it and get even?
But shouldn't they be working? We're the buyer's agent.
The buyer gets that appraisal at the closing and says, oh, I got an extra 10 grand in equity right here, right now. Right.
Okay. Obviously, they're looking for the sellers. My question is always on the seller, right? So why don't we say anything to the sellers?
I really just need to know what it appraised. On the seller side, that's
Okay.
before it appraised, okay, we're moving to the closing table.
And the
You're not going back to the seller and saying, hey, it went higher. Now we should try to get more money on it.
Right.
Like you're
So why not?
But the stuff, the selling if there's things with on prior, these are listed. Which they are appraisal initially.
Well, then, aren't your sellers going to be in violation of the terms of the contract?
How many nights?
They entered a legal contract. Nowhere in there that said that there's an appraisal contingency that if it comes in higher, I want to renegotiate.
We want to extract values.
And there's a degree of confidentiality. We cannot discuss an appraisal with the buyer or the seller or you. We can't talk about the specific content. We can't even tell you what the number is. You have to get that from Roger. He's allowed to tell you, but we can only tell him. Go ahead. Correct me.
Very big gray areas. What we can disclose.
Oh, I get it.
So we technically can't release the appraisal to you guys. It makes sense the buyer, along with the disclosure saying that you received this at least 3 days before the closing.
The buyer, their responsibility is their client, who's the buyer. Our responsibility is to them, who is the lender. Can of worms if you think you're going to renegotiate a higher price because your buyer is going to walk. They're just going to be like, all right, we had a deal. I don't know. I'll sue you.
That is low, and the seller is not going to do any repairs.
They can renegotiate.
They're going to walk anyway. So why about it if they get to the Yeah. No, the seller doesn't.
By the way, I will say that I feel that 3/4 of every deal that comes in low is renegotiated to the appraised value.
It can be definitely negotiated.
Yeah, not that we're the end all. In fact, we aren't. You guys are. Buyers and sellers determine what things are worth.
Share that difference.
Right.
That's a great idea. But what I've seen in the last 5 years that shocks me is how many cash deals there are.
Yeah.
Who can afford this crap? I know. There are so many cash deals. And I'm always like, wow, good for you. You know,
So impact then whenever you're using those.
they're the best comps.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the question?
You like how does that impact if they're using a cash deal as a comp? Because
It's the best comp
You said
because market value, the definition is the price paid in terms of cash without any financial influence after a reasonable exposure to the market, with both the buyers and sellers being knowledgeable of their rights and responsibilities.
you could have a California buyer that really doesn't know about it and just uses their number based upon what they're familiar with. And
Not for the seller,
exactly, yeah, right.
but they paid cash, so we're not there to ruin it for you.
If you maybe appraisals that people buyers are paying cash.
Good question. You guys got good questions. What a good group. You got some good people here. Yes, we do. I'll give you I won't use any names. I won't use any addresses, but I'm going to tell you a scenario that just happened 3 weeks ago. We got a request to do an appraisal. Highest price sale in the history of the city of Pittsburgh. 13,500 square feet house. So we get the bid and they send it over at $450. Now you're like, okay. So we bid back 3,000 2 weeks. And they called us the next day and they're like, $3,000? Are you kidding me? I said, well, it's 13,000 square feet. It's the highest price sale that ever occurred in the city of Pittsburgh's history since 1758. And it's going to take 3 hours to at least see it. And there's going to be a lot of work on the phone trying to verify nuances to sales that are comparables that aren't fully disclosed. So it's going to take a while and it's going to be hard to do. And $3,000 2 weeks. They called back the next day and they said approved because no one else would bid it. Well, we knew that. Let me finish because this is the cash story. The buyer was paying cash, but that buyer knew that he wanted to put a mortgage on it for tax deductibility purposes. So once he buys it, then he's going to slap a mortgage on it, maybe take out a $3 million loan just so he had something to deduct on his books. He's a smart guy, knew what he was doing, paying cash. The seller would not let us in the house. The seller said, this is a cash deal.
The agreement is sent.
There was cash, no contingency. Right, it's cash. So when we called the selling agent to get in, she's like, I don't know, let me run that by my seller. And the seller told her, stick it where the sun don't shine. And the listing agent came back and said, they said you can't get into the house until they own the house.
I mean, that's a,
well, it depends what you
Anyway, the thing is, we had to go back to our lender and requote because we said, listen, we're not even allowed in the house until they close. And they're like, okay, whatever. What's your new due date? We gave them a new due date based on what the scheduled closing was, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as they closed, we called the next day and the buyer was already there at the house and things were being moved in. And she said, sure, come over anytime you want. I said, well, we'll be there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I said, it might take 2 or 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. She goes, yeah, do whatever you want. No problem, And we showed up. Super nice lady. And me and another guy, I brought my East Hills guy. Ooh, I just told you where it is. So we, do you know where it is? Yeah. What a nice house. Let me tell you. What a nice house. You know the weird part? Well, not that. That happens all the time. But no garage. Yeah, where do you park your Maserati? No garage at all.
get it appraised.
Oh, yeah. But only I could make that happen. No, seriously, it did appraise. And so I have friends in the business and I call them and I say, hey, I got a number here. What do you got in the last 2 years that's over this number? And they're like, oh, Bob, I did this one in Edgeworth, blah, 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 great house, blah, 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 blah. So I'm pulling in data left and right. And we had comps on the same street that were near that price, maybe about $1.5 million less, but they were 4,000 square feet smaller. So when you make your adjustments, all of a sudden, these prices are making it happen. And did we put 6 sales in there? Yes. Was some of them over 1.5 years old? Yes. But we did what we needed to do to show the marketplace. And did they call back and say, you don't have a sale over the I had to write a letter.
Means that because it's an anomaly, right? It's a brand. It's kind of one.
My buddy, who's now passed away, God rest his soul, who was a commercial appraiser, I worked on a job with him. He brought me in because it was an elaborate residential job, also in the East Hills, that was being sold by the Diocese of Pittsburgh, that all these priests used to live in, and that they were selling it, blah, 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 the residents, blah, 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 blah. And I was talking to him about it. We're working on the job. And I said, yeah, but we can't bracket this price. And he looked at me and said, you residential appraisers, can't you have the best house on the street? And I was like, I wish the banks understood that.
Yeah.
They want to see 5 million, 4.5 million, 4,075,000, and it compresses to a number that says 5 million. They want to see that statistically, but sometimes you've got the best one.
Right. So then what?
Well, you do what I did, and you write an elaborate report with a lot of explanation, and they made the loan.
So like,
Because the other thing is, not to cut you off, but
no.
the guy was only borrowing half the price of the house anyway.
Oh,
So,
Yes.
if it came in at this number or if it came in less, it didn't matter. He borrowed $39. So, but the point was, sometimes the seller won't even let you in the house.
Let's see, there are three choices on the agreement of sale: cash, no appraisal; cash, but the buyer still has the option.
Cool. I didn't know that.
That wasn't that. Yeah.
So that's
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So, question from an agent that couldn't make it, but yeah, this happened. I've heard this from a couple of different agents as well. Conventional loans seem like they're like finding a little bit more water, like moisture in the basement, mold in the basement, old roof are starting to kind of receive more of these. Is this more the appraiser or the underwriter? Are you going into every house and saying there's moisture, there's a little bit of mold?
What another great question. You guys are good. So
I think I know.
there's three parts to this answer. The first part that comes right to my head is, remember, we're talking about a collateral for a loan. And you always have to have in the back of your mind what happens 6 months from now if they don't pay and the bank takes possession. And a representative from the bank goes out there and says, what the hell is that? That smell, that mold, that blah, blah, blah. They're going to go back to the appraiser and say, what did you do to me? So obviously we want to point out the ugly. And they're asking you to point out the ugly as well as the super nice. They put in a sauna and all this stuff. And look at that. Click, click, click. So we pointed out, but there's the condition ratings. Remember I told you about the condition ratings? If something falls down to a C5, we immediately are required to write the appraisal subject to it being made to a C4 level. Right away, we're told to do that. So if there's something that keeps that house from being livable under normal circumstances, we are immediately calling it a C5, and we have, for example, a really bad roof, like a really bad roof. This is not going to last 6 months.
That's a basement wall, for example. Would that be another one?
Right, structural integrity is in jeopardy. So we go C5, but then we write the report as if it's C4 and what the cure would be. Wall anchors, they go in 2 feet from the corner every 6 feet. They cost $800 a piece, plus a setup fee and a $2,000 blah, blah, blah. We know exactly what it's going to cost to fix, right? So we make that adjustment in the appraisal at that cost, and then then the lender's going to say, this has to be done. And done before the closing, right? Right. This isn't a 203K like Roger described, which may be the solution to the problem, but we are required to do that. The other thing is we're always to say that. Go ahead.
Probably not the solution if the problem's structural.
Oh, really? You can't fix the structure? Yeah, that would, I think that'd be one of the most likely reasons.
it is okay.
But we're trying to represent to the seller, the lender, all of the nuances to the property, and they always come back. So underwriting is going to, right. And I'll tell you another thing, to go back to a point earlier, everybody's getting really good at looking at these pictures. So even the kids who were hired like 6 months ago in a booth at a third party who's doing the checklist, they're looking at the pictures. They're really looking at those pictures.
And so it might not be you. It could be them saying, hey, we're flagging this. We see this.
Yes.
This needs the underwriting. This needs fixed before we give the loan.
Yes. We might even say in the report, let's say we're in Mount Oliver in a 140-year-old house with fieldstone foundation. We might even say there was some standing water in the basement at the time of inspection, but it had been a 3-day rain, which is not uncommon for a fieldstone foundation in a house that's 140 years old in this neighborhood. And the lender's going to say, I don't give a shit. You're going to fix that. But we said, yeah, this happens. Yeah. They say, no, that's not happening. So it's all kinds of playing it out. Should you be prepared for it? Yeah. We do a lot of appraisals for listings. And I walk through the house with the person. And I say, this door to the garage has to be changed. Because either the township or somebody is going to come in here and say, this has to be fire rated door, or I'll tell them, you got plugs right here by the laundry right here. This has got to be GFI, blah, blah, blah. Or you'll go into a house and there's no ceiling in the garage at all. And it's integral and there's living space above. You got a 5/8" drywall, fire rated, sealed and taped. I tell them, if you're going to go on the market and you want to sell, and I'm telling you what all your headaches are going to be right out of the gate, and that's free. You're paying their $500 for their appraisal, but I do that just to let them know,
You do different types. You do an appraisal one way before it goes on the market, taking into consideration everything that you would do for one if you had an agreement sale.
Right. So the one thing I want you to go with, there's only one value. There's market value. Everybody always thinks that I'm refinancing, so the bank is conservative, so they want it to be low. Or there's the divorce. I do a lot of divorce work. I love it because, they're standing out in the front yard screaming at each other. Well, and I don't care. But everybody always thinks I'm going to favor the husband or I'm going to favor the wife, whoever hired me. I don't. I want to be stone cold on a witness stand and be like, nope. Oh, all the time. Oh, yeah, many times. The worst part about it is when you got to chew up the other appraiser. That sucks. And they're usually sitting right there. And they're asking you questions about both reports. And that's kind of... husband and wife. Oh, yeah, they all both do. They both do. Yeah. And unfortunately, I'll tell you what happens is the judges don't really understand it all, so they split the baby. And if that other report is like drastically wrong and yours is, say, spot on, that means it's half wrong when they decide what the number should be. It sucks. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's something you do when you don't have time. So what is that?
Great question. And that is when you use the cost approach. However, let me say this. The appraisal has three methods. Sales comparison, which we're all very, very familiar with. Income approach, where we're doing a duplex and we got a bunch of duplexes and they're all selling for a certain price and they're all bringing in a certain rent. We divide that price by the rent and we get a factor called a rent multiplier. We see what the subject should rent for, not what it does rent for, but what it should rent for. We apply that multiplier, and that's an income approach. A cost approach and that's another thing about this new appraisal. They want land sales, 5 land sales. They want a lot of stuff. Oh, and then they want you to put 5 sales you considered but didn't use. And why? In this report that's going to be coming out in November. So you see how the workload has just gotten bigger and bigger because they want no callbacks. They want you to have answered every question. But to the cost approach, there's a land component that requires a sales comparison to get to a land value. And then there's what it would cost to build. Then it's how old is it or how old does it appear to be? And we depreciate that cost. So we take the land and the depreciated cost, and that's your cost approach. In our office, we don't do cost approaches when the house is over 20 years old because long life components of a house last 20 years or less. Furnace, roof. So once a house has gotten over 20 years old, the cost approach is all guesswork. Now, if it's 4 years old, cost approach is important. And a cost approach might sometimes save the deal. Because let's say that it's selling for $640 and our comps are tight and our sales comparison approach is coming in at $640, although when you look at it, it's looking like we're stretching it. But in our explanation at the bottom called reconciliation, where we reconcile our final decision, we say cost approach indicates that this house today would be very expensive. And we tend to lean towards the high end of the sales comparison range because the cost approach influenced our final decision. We're very eloquent to know an appraisal.
You just got cost about what was the other thing?
Depreciation. How old is it? So you take the depreciated value of the dwelling and add it to the market value of that land, and that's a cost approach. And in commercial appraising, we'll do a lot of churches that are being bought to be changed to restaurants, bars, dance studios, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times there's not a lot of sales. So we will do a cost approach to try and represent what it would take to rebuild this building today in this location. The banks lean 90% on the sales comparison approach. It is the benchmark for what something's worth. These other things are kind of nuanced. Of course, they're important in a 3-unit to have an income approach that makes sense. A rental property, something, 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit. An income approach becomes important in those appraisals, not so much a single family.
Even if they're not intending to rent the duplex?
Yes, because the average person would intend to rent a duplex. Who is the most likely buyer? And in a rental property, the most likely buyer is a non-owner investor. So we appraise it under that frame of mind. Now, when you've got this buyer who wants to live in the one next door and all sorts of stuff, blah, 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 we don't want to hear that. Because that's specific to this buyer, not to the market. Who is the most likely buyer? Always the question. So 3.6 is coming. It's a nightmare. It's going to be a lot. It's going to cost a little more. It's going to take a little more time. Hopefully in a year's time, it'll get better. But that's the big message, because I couldn't possibly go into all the details of what's going to change, but there's a lot. There's a lot. Anything else?
I wish I hadn't got a minutia the way you're looking at this.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have business cards?
I do. They're right here. I'll leave them right here with this packet right here. Of course, my email is on there. Send me an email. I'll send you whatever you want. Our website is simple. It's www.owenappraisal.com. It's got all of our staff on there and what we do and what we cover and all that. All right.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. You got it, Dan.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Good luck.
Good luck to you too.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't need me, do you?
No.
All right.
No, thank you very much.
I'll
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's great.
cool.
I just want to see.
Thank you all for hanging in there. Appreciate it. That was a good one.
I'm glad I'm not in the brains yet.
Oh my gosh, I know.
On appraisals and this new appraisal approach, it was really good. I think I took it for the CE show, but it was really involved. I was doing an alpha pricing. See you.